Now, ladies and gentlemen, the transfer window is open. Clubs around the world can start making some moves. And so I thought it'd be good to look at the Premier League, the entire Premier League and the newly promoted teams, and see what their rumours about who they could be bringing in are like. And then I'm going to say they should either sign them or stay clear. We're going to go through all 20 alphabetically. It's as easy as that. The biggest rumours linked to those clubs, and we'll see what I think. But just before I get into that, I really want to say thank you so much for the last couple of weeks. I put another video out last week, so we're now to 2 videos a week. It's going really well. I really thank you for the response. It's been really good. Trying to still sort out this studio in London, but we will get there. It's tougher than it looks. Apparently business rates are a thing, and I've found out about that. A lot more expensive than you realise. But anyway, let's get on with it. So if we're doing this alphabetically, let's kick it off with Arsenal. Some people may argue about Bournemouth because it's AFC Bournemouth, but whatever, we're doing Arsenal first. And they've actually been linked to quite a few big names. Isaac at Newcastle has been linked to them. Just don't think that move's going to happen. So I don't think it's worth talking about. Marcus Rashford's a really interesting one, but again, I just don't think Marcus Rashford's on the move. I think depending obviously on the manager situation, who knows, but I don't think he's on the move. And then Bruno G is another one, but we spoke about him on the video last week, possibly to Man City. But I want to speak about Benjamin Sesko. Now this is of course the RB Leipzig striker who had a fantastic end to the season, 7 goals in 7 games on the last 7 games. A really, really interesting guy. I think I'm going to probably see a little bit more of coming into the Euros. He's going to be playing against England as well. And right now, if you're looking at the striker market, which isn't necessarily packed with guaranteed superstars, a lot of people are looking towards young strikers who have that huge potential to become a fantastic striker and one of the best in the world. And Sesko definitely kind of ticks that box. And I think one of the big talking points about Arsenal, especially going into next season, is who are they going to be bringing in? Arguments about the left centre mid role, left back role, but striker is also another one. Talks of Gabby Jesus possibly leaving the club. Havertz did a very good job up top, especially towards the end of the season for them there. And if I'm being super honest with you, I think Benjamin Sesko is a sign him. Several clubs are linked to him. Spurs, Chelsea also looking at him as well. But in terms of Arsenal, they should be looking going out to go and get him. They have a lot of money to spend after being in the Champions League and finishing second in the Premier League. They've spent well. I think eventually we might see Arsenal starting to sell, and we actually might get into one of their players a little bit later on. But in terms of who they need to buy, I think Benjamin Sesko is someone that does fit that mould. He can play through the middle. Arguably, I've seen him play on the wing. I always remember the game I saw him play against Chelsea in the Champions League, Potter's first game actually. I think he kind of played on that right wing mould, though he is more of a striker. So young, like super, super young. Only, I think, 21 years old. And he's only just turned that a couple of days ago. I think it'd be a smart move by Arsenal to get him in. Again, he's not going to be your starting striker week in, week out. I think they've got to develop him. And I think Arteta's done a very good job at that. Look at Martinelli. Look at the whole back line, arguably, with Saliba, with Gabriel was a little bit older when he's brought in, but still, with Saka. From such a young age has made him into a superstar. And so I think Sesko would be a smart buy for sure. Aston Villa now. And again, they've had some interesting rumours. Hermoso, who's a free signing, looks like he's probably going to end up there under Unai Emery. Really good signing, I think that will be. But the guy I want to talk about is Denzel Dumfries. Now, apparently, Inter Milan are already trying to find a replacement for him before he leaves. Di Lorenzo looks like he might be going to Inter in that move. I think we spoke about Di Lorenzo actually in the two clubs and how they can spend £200 million. But anyway, we're on about Dumfries here in Aston Villa. The fee's around £30 million. He's only 28 years old. When I look at the Aston Villa squad, defence obviously does need to get stronger. I think fullback is an area, especially right back is an area that can be improved upon. Cash is good, but I think you can have competition there, and Conser does a job there, and he does a very good job when he's there. But I think Denzel Dumfries is someone who can come in and take it to another level, especially if they want to kind of be playing attacking fullbacks as well. Dumfries is really, really strong in that role. And so I think for that price of £30 million, sign him. Bournemouth was a bit of a tough one here because they haven't actually been linked to too many people. There was a lot of talk obviously about sales. Solanke's being looked at by a few different clubs here. And so the one that I've seen, and again, he's been linked to a few other clubs. Liverpool, Chelsea are looking at this guy. Wouldn't surprise me if there are a few others. Is Crescencio Somerville of Championship and Leeds United fame. He should be playing in the Premier League. Like, he is ridiculously good. Very, very, very good winger. I think he had a solid Premier League campaigns solid Premier League campaigns when he was with Leeds previously, a couple of seasons back. He's an exciting player. He can be developed. I do slightly wonder, like, if he is of the level of, say, a Liverpool when he's been linked there, and arguably even a Chelsea. But I think Bournemouth is a solid move. I think that would be a really, really good move for him to get to. They're obviously playing really, really good football. They've got a fantastic manager there. Somewhere where I don't think it would be his end club, but at least he could be there for a season, maybe even two. And I think they'd be able to get a good amount of money for him if they develop him in the right way and he succeeds on the South Coast for them. And so, yeah, I think it's a sign him. Brentford, I'm sorry this one's going to be quite quick because I couldn't find at all many links. I think their biggest rumour at the moment is all about Thomas Frank and where he ends up going. But that's not what we're here to talk about. The only one that I can find is this guy called Julian Eystone, who's a keeper, 18 years old, coming from the US. Looks good. I mean, look, they do need to improve in their keeper situation. Flecken last season was poor. He had that amazing game against Man City, and that was really it. And so, is he going to be starting next year, this Eystone guy? Maybe he's the next big thing. It's hard to say. So, like, I'll say sign him just because I don't think he's going to cost too much. It's very much kind of a Brentford move here. But they do need to improve in their goalkeeper situation for sure. Brighton now. And it looks like, again, their biggest rumour is about the managerial side of things of who's coming in. But the guy they've been linked to is a guy called Wesley, who's playing for Corinthians, around £30 million. I think West Ham are after him as well. Seems like a fun move. I think Brighton had obviously a questionable year last year. They had a lot of players taken away from them. They had a manager who kind of seemed like he wanted to leave anyway. They had injuries as well. I think this year, they're not going to be playing European football. It wouldn't shock me if you see Brighton come back, especially if they go and get someone like Graham Potter in as well, someone who knows the club, who was doing good things with the club before he left. Matoma got injured last year, which was annoying. Ansu Fati didn't work out and on the wing as well. And so I think bringing in someone who has a good future, can have a good development, is a smart Brighton signing. And it's very much something that they do. £30 million is probably on the higher end for them. Sure, sign him. I think I've said sign him to all of them, but don't worry, I will reject some moves. Chelsea now. Enzo Maresca is the guy, of course. That's done. He is in charge of Chelsea by the looks of it. Tosin Adarabioyo as well. Looks like he's coming in on a free. A good signing there. In isolation. We'll see what happens if it means that other centre-backs will be sold because of it. They've also got two youngsters joining in Kendry Payez and Estavio Willian. That could be really interesting next year. They've already got Madueke, Palmer, Angelo Gabriel. And so it's kind of baffling to a degree that Chelsea are still being linked to Michael Olise. It's funny when I think you look at the Olise situation because Chelsea was super after him last year. He nearly joined for a fee, I think it was around £30 million. And if he had joined, Chelsea might not have got, or probably wouldn't have got, Cole Palmer. And goodness gracious, I dread to think what the season would have been for Chelsea if they hadn't have got Cole Palmer in. Maybe Olise would have been the guy to have done that anyway. But Elise's got a kind of rocky, although at least for the last 2 seasons, injury record. Before that, he was pretty good. Now he's had this kind of hamstring issue happen a few times. And so I can understand why there are people that would be a little bit reserved about it. But look, we're doing this entire thing through kind of the club's point of view, not necessarily about the player or the selling club's point of view, about the club that are bringing him in and their point of view. The guy's stupid talented. Like, we know Olise is someone who has the potential to be a ridiculous winger, can take on any man, creatively really, really good. He's proven this year he's now also a goal scorer as well. I understand why Chelsea are still after him. I understand why any club is after him. Man United are looking at him as well. Because this is somebody who has a ridiculous potential. £60 million, I think, is the supposed fee. I know I'm going to get a load of rubbish for this in the comments, but sign him. Sign him. If you showed a photo of Olise holding the Chelsea shirt, having signed a contract, I wouldn't be complaining, I don't think. Crystal Palace then, the guy that we'll be taking Olise from if he does go to Chelsea. My advice to them is do not sell Olise, do not sell Eze. That's definitely the number one transfer advice. But they've been linked to a couple of other guys. I think we've seen Oliver Glasner do some really good stuff. And I think due to a couple of the transfer rumours, there's been some quite basic things where they've gone, hey, he used to manage Frankfurt or he used to manage Wolfsburg and whatever. And so that would be an easy way to bring these guys in. But the guy I want to talk about, who they've been linked to, and again, a couple of clubs have been linked to him. He's from Sunderland. He is the brother of Jude. He's none other than Job Bellingham, 18 years old. Supposedly Sunderland want £20 million for him. Sunderland paid 1.5 million last year, so that's a good profit there. I can understand why you wouldn't say no to that. And I've spoken to Doogie about him a couple of times. He's super young. He's 18 years old. He's played forward. He can play midfield for his position. They had a really good end of the season with Mateta for Crystal Palace. I don't think this is someone who will be starting week in, week out for Crystal Palace at all. And I can understand why clubs are interested in him. And if Spurs are looking at him, I know Chelsea have kept their radar on him, especially when you look at what his brother has gone on to do. You kind of think, does it run in the family? And by no means is he bad at all. By no means. And there's definitely potential there. He's a big guy, 6'3", obviously still not stopped growing yet as well, will fill out as well as the years come by. There's an argument, I think, to say let him stay at Sunderland for another year, but then what if he blows up and then he becomes a much more expensive signing next season? I think there are other places for Palace to maybe look at their money first. So actually, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to say do not sign him. Not necessarily stay clear, but I just think for now, maybe let him spend another year at Sunderland. I don't think other clubs will be biting to get him this season. See how he does, and then come back next summer. Everton here, financially, they're going to have to be very careful with their money this summer. They've been linked to Sami Šmodić, obviously scored the most goals in the Championship last year. He's not even a striker. He's kind of like an attacking second striker. Scored 27 goals last season for Blackburn. Basically saved them from relegation. He's had a really interesting career, but I don't know if it's the guy that Everton need. Obviously, Everton need a goal scorer. Obviously, they've been linked with Dominic Calvert-Lewin possibly leaving. Beto didn't necessarily work out last season. But I just don't know whether it's the right risk to take on a guy who has kind of just finally come good. And he's not even a striker. And will it work out in the Premier League? Everton need to be really careful with their money. And Blackburn aren't going to let go of this guy super easily. So I just think it's one to possibly stay clear of right now. With the financial issues, with 777 now not happening, which is a good thing as well. I just think it's a stay clear. Fulham now, and having lost Tosin Adrabaya, they look like they're going to be getting the centre-back in Omar Solet. That looks pretty good. But I actually want to talk about one of the new rumours that came out really recently. Emile Smith-Rowe could be on his way to Fulham. Let's be honest here. He's had a rough time in the last few years for Arsenal. Injuries really haven't helped him out. And whilst Arsenal have gone off like a rocket, especially in the last 2 seasons, he unfortunately has kind of been on the sidelines looking in. And this is a guy that needs to be playing his football. Arsenal are at a level where he's realistically not going to be starting week in, week out. It's not saying he's a bad player. I actually think Smith-Rowe's a really solid player. And when fully fit and when firing and playing week in and week out consistently, he's super, super strong. And maybe even to a level where he's better than a Fulham. But I think right now he just needs to be playing football and trying to kind of get over these poor injuries. And if Fulham can bring him in to help with their attack, I think that's a smart signing. Willian might be leaving, obviously contract-wise, and he's had offers from Saudi Arabia. Bobby Decordova-Reid as well. He looks like he's going to be leaving. I think they have offered him a new deal, but he might not be willing to sign it just yet. And so for Emile Smith-Rowe, I think Arsenal, as I said, may have to start looking at selling some players. He's a sellable asset. If a good figure comes in, I think, Fulham should sign him for sure. Ipswich, they've been linked to a few players. Omari Hutchinson, though, is the guy we're going to talk about. Obviously, was on loan last year for them, was a fantastic player. I think McKenna managed to use him really well in this loan scenario. Kind of slowly brought him into the side, and by the end of the season, he was one of the key men for him. Helped with the kind of system that McKenna wanted to play as well. He is being looked at other clubs. I know there are other loan moves, but it works so well that I can understand why they're super interested in him. Chelsea as well, as we mentioned, do you need to look financially at what players they can afford to sell? And I mentioned earlier about the possible wingers that they're going to be looking to bring in. Amari Hutchinson, if he's not going to be getting game time this season or even next season, then maybe in their minds, this is one of the most optimal times to sell him. And so I think if Ipswich can sign him, then of course, get the deal done, get him in the blue kit and see how next season goes. Leicester City, one of the other newly promoted clubs. Now, they're in an interesting position because obviously the manager's leaving. That's a really important position to make sure they get filled well. They've lost their top goal scorer last season in Jamie Vardy, who's now retired. And so they've been linked to Tammy Abraham. He's had an interesting time, I think, away from the Premier League in Serie A. Started super well with Roma, had a big injury that kept out for a long time. Came back last season, but kind of since then, the guy that brought him in, Jose Mourinho, has now left. And now new coach De Rossi isn't kind of, I think, his biggest fan. He's actually, I suppose, been transfer listed as well for around £23.8 million. Tammy, last time he was in the Premier League and was the main guy, which I think was Chelsea's first season under Frank Lampard, he got 15 goals in the Premier League, which is super solid for someone who's kind of having his first debut too, proper debut. I know he had a loan move to Swansea in the Premier League. In his first season for Roma, 17 goals. He's good at running in behind. I think one of the biggest question marks was his kind of hold-up play, so I hope he has got better at that. I'm a bit 50-50 here because, again, Leicester have already got a points deduction coming financially, and nearly £25 million is a lot of money to spend. They do need to make sure they've got a good goal scorer next season. Daka didn't really work out last time. Will Iheanacho be being used, or will he even be working out as well in the Premier League? We've kind of had this question mark about Iheanacho for a long time. I'm going to say don't sign him, just because there are now question marks about his injury history and whether he'll be fit. And Leicester need some guarantees before they go out and kind of take big risks. Liverpool, and they've been linked to Brian Mbeumo, which is a nice move. I think I've mentioned this on a few videos about how I like him. I think he's been unfortunate again last season due to the injuries, but he's only 24 years old. He's a solid player, and if they can get him before Tony leaves, or before they even sell Tony, then I think you get him at a good price. I really do. I always mention it. Ollie Watkins was Brentford's highest sale of 33 million quid. And so I don't think he's going to be incredibly, stupidly high price, 60 million or something. I think you're looking between 40 and 50 for him. And I think he's a really good player. I know Klopp was a big fan of him. And so I like this move. Sign him. He's yet to reach double figures in goals in the league. But I just think with this Liverpool attack, there are still question marks over Gakpo, still question marks over Núñez. I think with Mbeumo, you get a definite. You do get a definite. And I think if he's playing in the better attack, going double figures in the Premier League will definitely happen with him. So go and sign him. Man City, Jamal Musiala, another one that if Man City kind of go for one of these players, he's going to end up joining eventually. They've been interested in him for a little while now. I know Pep's a big fan of him. He kind of fits that style. I think he fits that style. And he's super young. Imagine a midfield that features Phil Foden, Musiala. That's fun. That's really fun. Does he necessarily kind of fit the formation? I don't know. And I do think Pep would very much kind of break him into what he wants from a player. But he's so highly talented. And there's also a question mark, I think, sometimes right now with City where, given what's happening behind the scenes, they're going to try and bring in as many young superstar talents as they possibly can. We know they like Florian Wirtz. Don't think he's going to be leaving this season. But if they can get him in, Musiala this being, before they're hit with maybe a possible record-breaking record kind of ban or whatever it might be, could be transfer ban, could be point deduction, whatever, it wouldn't shock me. And so, yeah, if they can sign him, definitely get him in. To the other Manchester club now, and it's United. As I mentioned earlier, they have been linked to Olise. It makes sense. Of course, yeah, go and get him if you can. The other one, though, is Brentford. Again, simple yes. Man United need centre-backs. This is one who is young, has huge potential, has had a really good debut, breakout season. It makes sense. The money that's being asked for, of course, is expensive. I don't think they should be paying £70 million that's being offered, but Everton aren't in a kind of situation financially to debate, really. So I think United can probably get a good deal here. And Ratcliffe has said many times that he doesn't want to be overspending on players. So I think if the right price is found, of course, go and sign him. You need centre-backs. It makes complete sense. Do it. Newcastle United have been linked to Dominic Calvert-Lewin and West Ham forward as well, Jared Bowen. Bowen's not going to happen. The contract's ridiculous. It's not happening. As for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, they've already got one injury-prone striker in Callum Wilson. Do they need another one in Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Calvert-Lewin is good. He is fine. He adds something, especially airily, like in the air, he's ridiculous. But I don't think he's the guy you go and get. Like there are other strikers there who I think would be willing to sit on the bench for Isaac or whatever, or even guys out there who could play possibly on the right wing to help them. That's the position they need. Do not sign Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Go look for a right winger. Go look for a right winger who can also cover in the middle. I mentioned Mbeumo, obviously, to Liverpool. He fits that mould really well. Really, really well. We spoke in the last video about how Newcastle will spend £200 million. We mentioned those positions too. I think I linked Rafinha there. Those are the guys they need to be going for. I understand you want to maybe like a backup striker in case Callum Wilson is fit as well, and Isaac gets injured. Oh, Wilson is unfit and Isaac gets injured. But I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin is not the solution to that. Maybe there's a need for kind of homegrown players. That is understandable. But right now, no, don't sign him. Nottingham Forest. Guys, I'm really sorry. Forest fans, I'm really sorry. I couldn't find a rumour. I genuinely couldn't. A few of these, like I really had to go diving in deep and digging. Just couldn't find one. Genuinely couldn't find one for Forest. And it makes sense because they don't need to be spending money. They have to not spend any money, really. Like financially, doesn't look good. Looks like several players might be off. I'm actually going to get onto a couple of them as well with a couple of the rest of the clubs. The only rumour is about possibly like a replacement of Nuno, and I can kind of understand that as well. But I don't think any money's going to be happening. So I'm sorry, Forest fans. There's no one at the moment. Southampton, the last newly promoted club. And this one was a player that they had last season who was on loan from West Ham, Flynn Downs. Apparently £12 million is the figure that's like being looked at by West Ham. I think this deal definitely has to happen. Whether it does is a bit of a different story. Like, Downs is a West Ham fan. I know it didn't work out originally under David Moyes, but now they're going to have a new manager. He might like him. He might impress him in the pre-season. Maybe Ward-Prowse does kind of have a good place under Lopetegui in West Ham, but I think Flynn Downs would be silly to maybe give up a chance of getting into that midfield. He was fantastic. I watched him in the playoff final against Leeds at Wembley. He was super, super good. Super, super good. Carried the ball really well. Overall, I think it would be a good move for Southampton if they can sign him. So yes, sign him, definitely. Like, he knows what's needed by Russell Martin and the way he wants to play his football and the squad. And £12 million is a really solid fee if they can get him for that. But I don't think that's going to be possible, unfortunately. Tottenham Hotspur, they've been actually linked to a couple of different people. They're looking for, I guess, another defender, midfielders, wingers, strikers. But one of the ones I want to talk about, he's a Forest player, is the Callum Hudson-Odoi move. Forest bought him for £3 million. They're looking to make a big profit already. Had a really strong year. It's been a bit rough for Callum Hudson-Odoi. Broke through when he's 16 under Maurizio Sarri. Like, you think about all the kind of squads he's gone through now at Chelsea. And even now you look at his season last year compared to possibly some of the other wingers at Chelsea. 8 goals, 1 assist. He did really well on that left flank. Had that same type of goal to cut in onto his right foot and put it into the right corner. Scored it against Chelsea, actually. It's a solid move. I think if they can get him for the right price, he's still so young, like 23 years old. I think sometimes we forget, actually, like, because he's been around for so long now, for like 6 years or so. We forget how young he is. Would fit that mould, I think, of what Ange's trying to do. I'm not saying he's like going to guarantee you to be a 15, 16 goal winger, but those are hard to come by. Like, they're very hard to come by. But I think he could be a good move. Like, if you can get him for, say, 30, 25 million pounds, I think that'd be a really solid move. It gives you a couple of options then on that wing. Can play either flank, like obviously loves the left wing position, but can play on the right if you need him. I think there are a lot worse moves you could make for a winger than Callum Hudson-Odoi, that's for sure. And so, yeah, if you're Spurs, sign him. West Ham. Now, they've been linked to a couple of different players. A lot of it, though, that seems to be a striker. They're after a striker. Makes sense. Like, Antonio's never going to be there forever. They can improve on him as well. I think he's been done very, very well. Of course, he has. I think there's a lot of slander sometimes for Antonio. But they have been linked to another Forest player, Taiwo Awoniyi. Get him. Go and get him. Yes, I know there are injury concerns, but it is hard to guarantee a definite win for a Premier League striker. And I think you've seen it with him at Forest. He is that. He is the tick in the box. He is fantastic. 6 goals and 3 assists and 12 starts last year. I know there were the injury concerns. But I think you get him at a good price. We've mentioned before about Forest's kind of finance issues. And if they're trying to keep Gibbs White, they're going to have to look at selling a few of the other different players. I think he also guarantees you at least 14 goals a season. If he's fully fit, plays every 38 games in the Premier League season, I think he guarantees you at least 14, maybe more. He's really good. Great in the air, good hold-up play, quick, has that poacher's mentality. Just there's not many other boxes you can fill, really. He's also helps as well with assists, 3 assists last season in as just those 12 starts. I think it's a strong move. And I really don't think it's going to be an astronomical fee to get him either. What you might see happen, though, is if, say, Hudson-Odoi goes first, then he only becomes a lot more expensive. Or the other way around, or, say, another player, say Gibbs White moved on, then they become a lot more expensive. Wolverhampton Wanderers. And this one's a little bit interesting because, again, I don't think finances are necessarily extremely high. I don't think they're going to be selling too many players, if any at all. If someone comes in with a good valuation for Ait Nouri or even Pedro Neto, then maybe. But I think Gary Neal's very keen to kind of keep hold of the players he has. And if he can, try and add a striker. That's the one they need to do. And they've been linked to Armando Broja of Chelsea's academy. Was on loan for the second half of the season with Fulham. Didn't really get played that much. That was also because Fulham ended up having someone that did pretty well up top, and so he didn't get the minutes. Seems like he's going to be on the way out this summer. Apparently Monaco are interested in him. They do need a number 9. It's tough for Broja because I do feel like there is potential there. And obviously when people speak about him, they talk about that loan at Southampton, which is really good. But since then, he's not been able to crack on. That was a good couple of years ago now. He's had big injuries since then. He's not played much since then. He didn't necessarily impress at Fulham in the end. And so those are worrying factors for me. I think if Wolves can't find another striker to kind of play week in, week out for good value, then okay, sign him. If they can find someone else who kind of ticks the boxes and is a bit more of a guarantee, then I think maybe stay away. But I'm sitting on the fence there. And supposedly Chelsea are a bit more reasonable now with the fee being looked at. And so look, if it's around 20 million quid, maybe even less, I think sign him. So there we have it. That is all the clubs in the Premier League. 20 biggest transfer rumours linked to every single club. Let me know what you thought. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of these over the coming weeks and months. And I will try and maybe do some updated versions of this video. We might see a couple of them actually come through as well. Who do you think your club should be signing though? Get in down there and let me know. And I'll try to reply to a bunch of you with my thoughts and opinions. If you haven't already, then like the video. It helps me out so much, helps with the algorithm. It would be greatly appreciated. And also subscribe to the channel. Let's try and hit, I don't know, 50,000 subs within the next couple of months. We'll see. That's a big aim, to be fair. But if you're not subscribed, then please do. It does actually also help me out massively. Helps, again, algorithm-wise and all that kind of stuff. But thank you so much. I will see you guys on Thursday. So stay tuned, and I'll see you then. See you later. Bye.